Finance Committee meeting. I'm going to call the meeting to order at 11:43. Would you please call the roll?
Cavell? Cowell? Here. McGillivray?
Here.
Howell?
Here.
Charles?
Present.
Long?
Here.
Moss?
Here.
Markham?
Here.
Madam Chair, you have a call?
Thank you. Let's all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Next up is approval of the minutes of the committee meetings dated May 4th and the closed session dated May 4th. Moved by Commissioner McGillivray, supported by Commissioner Kowal. All in favor of approving the minutes, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Minutes are approved. Next up, we have approval of today's agenda. Commissioner Kowal, supported by Commissioner Moss. Any comments, changes? All in favor of approving today's agenda, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Agenda is approved. So next up, we have public comment. Do we have anybody from the public today who wishes to address this committee?
Yes.
Good morning. Come to the end of the table, state your name, your community that you live in, and you have 3 minutes.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Catherine Kennedy from Lake Orion, and I would like to bring your attention first to the revisions. I'd like to hear what the revisions are for reimbursement regulations. Economic Development 9A, the Critical Infrastructure Planning Grant Program. As I just indicated in the prior meeting that I just finished, these items were also in the May 12th full board packet as part of the special local road improvement program. And there were dates that I had found where those same items, the 2 million local roads, were when actually had approvals that went back to 9/29/21, even though they were created much more recently. So I don't understand how any of those are actually approved at all. And then we go to the indigent defense. Now, I recall last year, I think we created this department about 1.8 million, and as I recall, the sheriff lost 1.5 million according to the budget hearing in August 11th. So we actually created a program and took more from the sheriff than what was put into indigent defense to start with. And then I noticed in October, we had budget amendments for quite a few things. And among them was the one where we created another position to support the expungement program, where we're allowing the Clean Slate Act to be used. And it's not specifically just for citizens, apparently, from the legislature wording. And I am very concerned. We have a lot of things, the infrastructure packet back here. I had during the Finance October 6th, there was an infrastructure item which Commissioner Spiz reminded Mr. Ward he forgot to upload. That will be on the next board agenda 10/28/21. My prior notes related to infrastructure finance item 8B, Deputy Ward indicated money assigned for critical infrastructure under ARPA criteria policies align closely with federal programs. There would be an oversight committee for 1, support of local government for disadvantaged communities like lead water line, which is fine, and 2, not specified strictly. The not specified strictly is the part that I had a concern with back in October 27th, and since my memory is a little, I take more notes. So the other thing is the electrification of this entire digital conversion of our county. October 28th was the same day the court ordered the Michigan Supreme Court rules 1.109 and 8.115 would have to be complied with, and they ordered Oakland County to do so in their digital confirmation to redact our personal identifying data. So that went back to that meeting. That's the same one where Woodward did a communication for a $750,000 grant for, I'm not sure what you call it, raise the age grant for juvenile defect. So
Your
when
time
you
is
say-
up, Ms. Kennedy. Thank you very much.
Oh, I see that. Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, next up, do we have anybody else who wants to speak during public comment? 1, 2, 3. Seeing no one, I will close public comment. We will move on to communications. We have none. Next up, we have item 8A, department recommendations, management and budget resolution revisions to business expense reimbursement regulations. And I believe our presenter is Lynn Sonkus. Good morning.
Good morning.
And Cheryl Johnson. Welcome.
Thank you. Do you have a motion?
I do need a motion, thank you. Commissioner Moss, supported by Commissioner Cavell. Now you go.
Okay. Good morning. So today we're bringing forth a resolution that will approve the updated policy regarding business reimbursement regulations for the county. It's been a number of years since these regulations have been updated, and the primary reason for the update is in relationship to our recent implementation of Workday. So most of the changes are related to technical changes as it refers to terminology utilized within the business regulation policies. And we did take this opportunity to make some clarifications within the policy for some frequent questions that we may get in getting reimbursement requests from departments or items that we had to send back or clarify with the department what the business purpose was. So most of the things that you will see in the change relate to, there was previously referred to as MB forms, management and budget forms, that were utilized to facilitate the processing of reimbursement requests. They were all paper-driven. With the Workday implementation, it's now being modernized, more efficient in the ability to submit expense reimbursement requests via the financial system application itself, including the uploading of receipts and supporting documentation. So that's a significant change from previous processes. We also, like I said, there were a couple of points of clarification, making sure that all resolutions or all reimbursement requests are for business-related purposes, that there is approval where appropriate. And on the last section related to public and group meeting expenses, we did add in language to allow for certain expenses related to, I'll call it infrequent or irregular meetings that require maybe additional, some light refreshments at the meeting to facilitate an all-day session, or something that's at the convenience for the employer. And those do require pre-approval by the elected official or by the deputy county executive over that department. It must be pre-approved, and that supporting documentation must be submitted with the expense requests.
Okay. I will open it up to the commission. Committee, I mean. Anybody have any questions, comments? If not, let's prompt the vote. Bagpipes.
Madam Chair, you have 8 yeas, 0 nays.
Okay, motion carries. Thank you very
Thank you
much.
very much.
Next up, we have item 8B, the Board of Commissioners resolution sponsoring the 2022 Clawsome 4th of July Festival. I need a motion. Commissioner McGilvery, supported by Commissioner Moss. Is anybody here to talk about it?
She was here this morning, but
If we look in our,
yeah, I
our
think it's,
packet, the
Yeah.
staff has helped us understand what
It's-
people do on 4th of July, like
It's
barbecue and have kitty parties.
It's $5,000, correct? Yes, a one-time funding, just to help support their parade. Anybody have any comments, questions? Commissioner McGilvery?
Just a quick comment. I've attended the Clawson Festival before. They always have a large turnout. They have a parade. as well as fireworks. And I think that this is a good project.
Okay. Commissioner Cavell?
I just want to remind everyone that we have a set policy that we put in place for special requests like this. This did not go through that, so I'd like us to just throw that out there for everyone to be
I
cognizant
thought
of.
it did go through
We
it.
should start
She-
doing the.
She said it did.
Oh,
She
okay.
she asked a month and a half ago, how do I go through the process? So it's my understanding that she did go through the process.
Who's on the subcommittee then that's supposed to approve those?
No, wait.
It got approved in caucus to bring it forward.
That's not.
Actually, at the time when she announced it to us, she hadn't went through that process. But since then, because we brought it up, she did finally go through that process.
Okay.
But we had already said, at least with that one, we was gonna move forward
Yeah.
and start from there. So she did go back, cause she called me to tell me literally like 2-3 days ago.
Okay.
So yes, as of now, she didn't go through it the right way, but she did go back and still fill it out.
Okay.
And we moving forward the right way.
Okay.
Got it.
Well, thank
Okay.
you.
Yeah, I
And
just
we
want to
should
clear
all get
that
that
up.
moving forward.
Because I didn't know if she
Yeah,
talked to you, but
that's
she
a good point.
physically called.
But she talked to you later than me, so.
Yes,
good.
yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other
Thank you,
comments,
Jeremy.
questions? Let's prompt the vote, please.
I wasn't making good points in the last meeting, so we gotta.
Gotta get some, keep going here.
I have a project coming forward, and we're going through the process.
Yep, and I'm about to send 2 of them too. So
Yeah.
it's started.
Madam Chair, you have 8 yeas, 0 nays.
Okay, motion carries. Thank you very much. That's everything under department recommendations. Next up is Economic Development and Infrastructure Committee recommendations, item 9A, appropriating additional American Rescue Plan Act local fiscal recovery funds and authorizing the release of grant funding for the local government critical infrastructure planning grant program. I need a motion. Commissioner Moss, supported by Commissioner Cavell. Okay. Mr. Spiz talked about this in the Economic Development Committee meeting. Most of us were there, not all of us. Does anybody have any questions about this? Okay, then let's go ahead and prompt the vote. Okay.
I know you guys.
Madam Chair, you have 8 yeas, 0 nays.
Great, thank you. Motion carries. Next up, item 10A, under Public Health and Safety Committee recommendations, the Michigan with the Michigan Indigent Defense Commission for FY 2023. I need a motion. Commissioner Charles, supported by Commissioner Kowal. Good morning, Mr. Mena.
Good morning, Commissioners. Thank you for your time. I was at Public Health and Safety yesterday, so some of this may be repetitive for a few of you. This is our yearly grant with the state to run our indigent defense system. There are several legal requirements that are placed on this grant. This is a mandatory submission that we have to make. We have to go through a negotiation process with the state. We have to get the state buy-in and approval to what we are asking for. And so normally we only bring this to the board one time in September for a combined application and approval process once we know, what we are actually likely to get from the state. The reason that we're bringing it to you in 2 stages this year is because we are making a very significant change in the way that we provide indigent defense services next fiscal year. The change that we're making is the creation of an in-house public defender's office. And so part of our plan and part of our grant submission is requesting funding for 9 employees, public defender's office employees. 7 of those are attorney positions, 2 would be support staff. That office obviously would necessarily only take a small percentage of our current caseload, but the intent would be to build it up year over year until we get to a point where it's taking a greater percentage of our indigent defense caseload. And so the submission that we are making to the state right now, and the version that's in your packet is still in draft form, but it is substantially complete. And you see that we are requesting $15 million in grant funds from the state. The important thing to know about this grant is we have what is called a local share contribution. That is a statutorily calculated number. We cannot change it. That is, it is what the statute tells us that it is, and it is approximately $1.8 million. That calculation is based on an average of what the county spent on indigent defense in the 3 fiscal years prior to the creation of the MIDC Act. It goes up each year by 3% or inflation, whichever is less. Obviously, this year 3% is much less, and it does not compound. So it is always, the 3% is the highest it can ever go. So we contribute that amount. We ask the state for funding for anything we are going to spend in excess of that amount, and we, to the extent that the state does not approve funding in excess of that amount, we are not required to comply with the MIDC standards. That's the way that this grant works and the way that the MIDC Act is set up. The reason that we're creating this in-house public defender's office is because we really believe that this is going to significantly increase the quality of services that we can provide to the people who need them the most. Our current contract attorneys do an excellent job, but there is also something to be said for having an in-house office that can be a direct point of contact, that can be staffed with people who are actually county employees. And we really do feel like the service that we can provide is going to go up, the quality is going to go up with the creation of that office. The other part of this grant beyond that is also increasing attorney fees for our independent contractor attorneys. They don't get paid enough currently. They deserve to be paid more than they are. And so that is part of this grant request as well, is to get more state funding so that we can pay the attorneys more money. Again, regardless of what this plan says, the county is paying $1.8 million. That's a given, that's required. And so it's anything above that is what we are asking the state to fund. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners. Commissioner Moss.
Yes. I feel like Commissioner Kowal here. We were present at the creation of this whole endeavor. So I didn't see in this, and maybe it exists and I haven't seen it, that basically you're creating a department and you're going to have nine people in it, whatever. Has there been a proposed or projected budget with the costs of that department and the costs of the personnel costed out to, say, 3 years of that? I mean, does that exist?
Well, to 3 years, I would say no, because the intent would be that the department is not going to be 9 people in FY24. It's going to be 9 people in FY23. It'll grow in 24. It'll grow again in 25. It'll grow each year. So from a static perspective, we have what we know the salaries would be based on the county's published salary schedule. So we know what the salaries would be, we know what the fringes would be. All of that is in the cost analysis.
One of the strengths of Oakland County historically is that before embarking on any kind of a new initiative, or even keeping the old ones, we would cost out for 3 years to 2 years, whatever the rolling budget. The Lansing would make it 2 years, and then Brooks would say, no, we'll be 3, and then we'd be 4, and it got to be an arms race. That if you are indeed, and you obviously you are, and you're responsive to state law, I understand that, is that you are creating a department, and a significant department, and it seems to be an open-ended department. And so, at the very least, I would advise, if nothing else, y'all to come up with a plan or with a projection as to what this department is going to be costing going forward, with a reasonable estimate of what its personnel is going to be. If you think it's going to be more next year and more the year after, what do you think that would be? What would the cost be about that? And perhaps, as importantly, where the sources of revenue to support that would be coming from. And if the sources are grants, we all know that those come and they go. So let's, I would just throw that out. Obviously, what you brought here is probably sufficient for the day, but simply having a static snapshot is no good, because we know, first of all, that it's going to grow. And if we're going to start a new department, and we know it's going to grow, I would think that would be a good idea. Thank you.
My response is I agree with you. I think that it is always good to project out as far as you can. It's difficult to know what percentage of caseload this office is going to be able to handle, and in fact, the feasibility study that the county hired the Sixth Amendment Center to do has recommended that if we were going to handle 40% of our current caseload, that we have 90 FTE employees in order to do that. I'm not saying that I personally agree with that number. I'm just telling you that that's the study numbers that we have. The other thing that I would say too is the sources of revenue for this is a state grant. That is what it is. And so the concern that we are creating county positions which involve people who we hope to continuously employ in the future is certainly a good and valid concern. I mean, if the state decides in 5 years that this is no longer a worthwhile endeavor and that funding indigent defense is way more expensive than they thought it was going to be, and we're not going to give Oakland County the grant money anymore, that will be extremely problematic and very disappointing.
May I suggest that, once again, over the years, we had something that we called the Gosling Amendment, named for County Commissioner Marilyn Gosling. And it said that every time we accepted a grant to do something, we put in a boilerplate that when the grant goes away, the program goes away. So everybody knew going up front that we got this nice money, but it wasn't like, okay, we've got this money, but when the grant goes away, we're just going to have to scramble to keep the program. We knew up front. And I think given the history of the indigent defense project at the state of Michigan, which once again we know we were there at the creation, is that little to no thought or regard was given to the ability of the people that Lansing was telling them had to provide the service as to whether or not they could pay for it or how they were going to pay for it. It was simply Lansing big-footing locals, which Lansing is wont to do. But so I would say that going forward on this, I would definitely put in a modified Gosling amendment. Not that it won't matter if Lansing says you must do this, and by the way, we've just withdrawn the money we gave you to do it, and have fun finding it in your own budget, which once again Lansing does as well. Although it might violate the Headley Amendment to do that. I don't know. That's for lawyers. Other lawyers. But the thing here is that this is a department open-ended, and as you say, well, heck, you could have up to 90 people here, and I would be very, very careful and very, very precise about how you proceed. Thank you.
My understanding is that I know what the Gosling Amendment is, and my understanding is that the Gosling Amendment is standard anytime you're creating grant-funded positions. I would imagine in September, when we come back for the acceptance resolution and where these positions are actually created, I assume the Gosling Amendment would be in there. That's
very good.
Nothing new.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Anybody else? Seeing no one, let's go ahead and prompt the vote.
Madam Chair, you have 8 yeas, 0 nays.
Okay, motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Mena.
Commissioners.
Next up, we have item 10B with the State Court Administrative Office for the FY 2023 Michigan Drug Court Grant Program. I need a motion. Commissioner Cavell, supported by Commissioner Kowal. Good morning.
Good morning.
All right, we have before us Ms. Bates. You want to introduce yourself and tell us what we need to know?
Sure. I'm Patricia Bates. I'm the Chief Probation Officer at the 52nd District Court in Troy. This will be our 9th year, I believe, 10th year for applying for a grant for our drug court. We currently have approximately 40 people in our program, and the grant funding goes towards supporting a staff member, probation officer, treatment, testing, a peer recovery coach, which we were able to add last year with our funding. And I guess, do you have any questions of me?
Okay. Commissioners, does anybody have any questions about this program or the funding for it?
Okay.
Seeing no one, let's go ahead and prompt the vote.
Howell?
I just did it. Yes,
Oh,
though.
thank you.
I'm sorry if it didn't come through, yes.
Madam Chair, you have 8 yeas, 0 nays.
Okay, motion carries. Thank you very much. Have a good
Thank you.
day.
Enjoy your day.
All right, so that's everything under public health and safety. Next up, we have a closed session. At this time, I would ask everybody who's not a member of the Finance Committee or the people making the presentation to please leave, and then we will go into closed session to discuss the Raffaelli case. I need a motion to do that. Commissioner McGilvery, supported by Commissioner Cavell. So if you are not on the Finance Committee, I would ask you to please
Let me make sure, give me one moment. We're back, folks. I gotta go back on go-to-meeting.
You know, I mean, in other words, my sense of it is, and this is just a guess, because like I say, there's no experience.
It's a good day for that.
Oh.
Are you going to tomorrow? Today, 4 hours. Detroit gonna go fast. Oh, you only have 3 hour drive.
Back into go-to.
Can be 10 of each,
4.
a total of 10.
I've got so used to it. I've actually driven up and then turned it back. We have been trying
The first time we traveled,
I didn't count, but am I eyeballing?
all right, we're back in open session. I declare this meeting, oh, I gotta wait.
Sorry.
It's okay. We can't operate without our staff, so I let you tell me what to do. And I'm very happy about doing it. Okay. All right. Get everybody's attention. Okay, I declare the meeting back in open session. And then I will entertain a motion.
I would move to authorize the settlement amount requested by the Corporation Council.
I support.
Okay. All right, so moved by Commissioner McGilvery, seconded by Commissioner Powell. Let's please prompt the vote.
To authorize for council to receive as directed.
Right.
Madam Chair, you have 7 yeas, 1 nay.
Okay, motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate your attention, and good questions, too.
Thank you.
Okay. That being our last item of regular business, next up, we have our second public comment. Anybody who wants to address us, please come forward. You have your 3 minutes. Thank you, gentlemen.
I know, that's why I said you were going.
Thank you.
Thank you. Lawyers and then damn lawyers.
That's why I said it.
All right.
It's like they're fired. Trust me, LOL.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name's Catherine Kennedy. I'm from Lake Orion. And I don't know if all of you are aware, but on May 4th, 2022, a special ad hoc audit subcommittee was held at the corner of the table between 11:45 a.m. and noon. And it didn't have published notice in advance. It was immediately following the economic development meeting that started at 9:30, didn't close until 11:45, with the final presentation being the World Economic Forum reimagination of our term. And then the 11 a.m. scheduled Finance Committee meeting that did not actually start until noon, for the sole purpose of giving Plant Moran the 2022 audit contract without going to bid, since all financial systems were changed last year. I actually object to that adamantly. I think the citizens need better transparency than that, and I think it is reprehensible that it's done in a inserted meeting 15 minutes in between 2 other meetings. Earlier today in the finance, Mr. Mena referenced the Indigent Defense Attorney Grant as an annual renewal. Actually, it was just started last year with $1.8 million, and I actually have a problem with a lot of things on there. He mentioned they needed to raise money for fees. I recall sitting through a meeting where the fees were already increased to $175 an hour last year, and I do not understand. He also mentioned it goes up each year by 3% or inflation. Well, inflation this year is astronomical. I'm not sure how this got negotiated in. They said MIDC Act is set up with policies and not decided. It used to be the judges would decide which attorneys would represent poor suspects or to represent them. This new department excludes that, and so far in the first year, only was appointing people that were in private practice at the rate of $175 an hour. So this new department is being given the authority that used to be held by the judges to appoint, and I seem to recall that they were supposed to pick the best for the case. Now, if I can't even pick the best for the case when I have to pay it necessarily, but I think that eliminates a very critical thing that we used to have available for new attorneys, a place to practice law when you're starting out. That typically was where the new attorneys would get experience, isn't it? When the judge was appointing someone to represent people that couldn't afford to pay. I think there's a rotation through the bar where they do that, pro bono service. So I don't know why we would have to pick the best for the case to pay for somebody that can't afford it when I can't afford it myself out of my tax dollars.
Okay,
Thank you
Ms.
very much.
Thank you. Okay. Do we have any other business to come before this committee? If not, I will call this meeting adjourned at 1:10. Thank you all.